Do this. All right, there we go. We are back in action. We'll wait for the first set of viewers to get in, and then we will be on our way. All right, still waiting for the first viewers to get in. Good, there we go. All right, there we go. First two viewers, first like. Thank you for joining in. As usual with one of these streams, gotta introduce myself. This is Anthony from Peaches Sound Stormwatch on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you very much for tuning in this late in the afternoon. We're currently watching lots of lightning producing thunderstorms in parts of northwestern Nevada and portions of central Oregon at the moment. Right now, just posting the stream on X. So, also trying out something new. I have the live subscriber counter for the YouTube channel in the lower left corner. We'll see how that works out for us. I'm watching the live chat down on this portable screen on the left side. So in case you see me keep looking at the bottom left, just watching over the chat. So if we have anyone watching right now that wants to bring up any questions, comments, or concerns, I am more than happy to answer them at this hour. Looks like this cell here has died out. This one had a couple of weather advisories on it earlier for Detroit and surrounding cities. This has since moved out of the warned area and significantly weakened. It looks like at the moment, this former cell right here does not pose a threat. You just look at how quickly that storm cell right there started to die out. And it's just a shower now. Okie doke. First comment of the day. Or question. How bad are the storms expected tomorrow, or I guess now into Sunday? So, great question to start things off. Good thing is I got some weather models here for us to look at. So this is the 0Z or 5 p.m. per 3 km model. And it's really started to back off on morning time storm coverage. Yeah, actually, even in this run, the 18Z, it's not showing anything. So let me show you what I was talking about if you came from the Facebook page earlier. Otherwise, if not, this is what I mentioned earlier in the briefing. So the activity has since changed just because since I posted that video, we have a new full run of all of these cam models, the convective allowing ones. They're the short range ones. So all the short term ones are called cam models. But the HER 3 km now has most of the activity staying later on in the afternoon tomorrow. And let me zoom in a little bit on the Seattle area. And these models have also been hinting at a second round, and they've been pushing it back from Sunday morning to Sunday afternoon now. So very fluid situation going on still, because this was not showing up in yesterday's run or this morning's run. This is all brand new, even to me. So if the HER 3 km verifies, then it looks like some areas north of Seattle could get some of the action as soon as noon tomorrow. And then this moves off into Whidbey Island, San Juan Islands, Bellingham area, and then scoots off up the Strait of Georgia. And then we have the second round pop up, maybe some isolated cells ahead of it in the convergence zone area. Not 100% on that. The HER and NAM, among other models, did pretty poorly modeling the lightning activity near Portland this morning. So that's a little bit discouraging. But it does have this second scattered round coming through at around 9 p.m. tomorrow, if this model does verify. And maybe even around 3, around noon Sunday. Like, this shows evidence of multiple rounds of precipitation coming up from the south. But now I want to go look at the NAM real quick. So, I think the NAM is, yeah, it's halfway rendered. It's rendering the 0Z right now. So we're out to hour number 30. Right. Let me see if my subscriber counter's updating, because I just got a notification that we got +2. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So that image was frozen. Whoops. I was trying to zoom in on the number, but it froze the page. So I guess we'll just kind of have to deal with that one down in the corner. You may not see the counter very well, but hoping we can keep it updating live. So thank you to all the new subscribers joining in. Much appreciated. But anyways, back to the NAM 3KM. So similar story on this. It no longer has the activity that was here before sunrise. So if we go back several runs, see, this was 3 a.m. This was the run from yesterday. Okay, so this was from, yesterday afternoon. Had my times confused there for a second. But yesterday afternoon, it did have some of this scattered cell activity happening anywhere between 2 and 4 a.m. tomorrow. But if we go to the new one, that's no longer there. That's just one of the joys of watching weather models all the time, is watching how they see, like, even the 11 a.m. one from yesterday morning had even some isolated supercell activity, perhaps, down here in Toledo along the I-5 corridor. That pretty much disappeared in the next run. So this was 5 a.m. this morning. It had the scattered thunderstorms around here at 4 a.m. That didn't verify. And then all of a sudden, we got nothing in the morning time. Just one of the joys of being a forecaster around here. Now, it looks like this is all new to me from what I'm seeing, but... So if we go back to the 18Z, this was 11 a.m. this morning. The 18Z was showing some of this activity popping up, even like keeping it... Okay, let me go back from the beginning here, because I'm starting to scramble. Bear with me. So this would have been tomorrow at around 5 p.m. It keeps most of the activity out west and in the Cascades. And to put that into comparison for what we've seen in the previous runs. So you had maybe some isolated cell activity down here along the foothills and Cascades back at yesterday's 0Z run. But that no longer exists in today's 0Z run. See, so this wants to keep the bulk of the activity later on, like as early as midnight Sunday. And see, it's got some really robust activity going on here. Interested to see how long it takes for this to render. Usually it takes about a half hour or so to render the rest of the frames. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this complex if this were to verify. This is midnight Sunday. We still have kind of a weather model hot potato going on right now. You know, this makes coming up with a definitive forecast extremely difficult. It's because there's almost no model agreement whatsoever. It's all over the board. We go back to the European deterministic. So still waiting for the 0Z to render. Usually takes about 4 hours or so after the time of initiation for it to start rendering. So I guess I didn't even... Well, I sort of answered the question, first question in chat. However, to give you a definitive answer, like one where it's just like, okay, this is the answer. I'm going to say that there's a good range for what the storms could be like tomorrow. It could be a nothing burger again, or it could be something shy of crazy. Not crazy, but a bit shy of crazy. Because originally in some of the forecast discussions from NWS Seattle, it was talking about some stronger storms up in the mountains. It has since backed off on that. Let me see if I can pull up an old forecast discussion real quick from CTAC. Yeah, so we have a forecast discussion from 3:11 p.m. Let me pull that bad boy up real quick. So it says, an active pattern looks to continue heading into next weekend. High amplitude ridge shifts to the east, so the ridge is what was giving us the more pleasant weather the last couple days for the most part, and is allowing this wildfire smoke to mix down towards the surface because high pressure induces sinking motion, while low pressure induces rising motion. Says, as the day progresses, stronger shortwave will ripple northward in the southerly flow aloft, so winds above the surface coming out of the south moving to the north. So the southerly flow that they're talking about is usually at around the 500 millibar layer, so 18,000 feet above sea level. Can usually go up to 300 millibars, which is, I believe, about 33,000 feet above sea level. That's usually what they call the upper levels of the troposphere, which is the layer of the atmosphere where all weather happens. It says the trough axis will shift inland on Monday, and more of the same with chances of additional showers and thunderstorm activity. Forecast confidence decreases into the middle of next week. The ensemble means are maintaining a chance of showers through the week, while the deterministic models are showing ridging overhead. Yeah, so I'm no longer seeing any mention of the strong storms that they were talking about. But I do believe this paragraph does come. Okay. They said, I will take a nothing burger. Yeah, so considering the state of fire weather right now, I would say a nothing burger would be much warranted compared to a storm outbreak. Although, yes, it would be fun. It wouldn't be fun for those areas that are drought stricken, and also the increase in fire activity happening just in the last week or so. You know, there are bone dry fuels up in the mountains and in the Puget Sound Basin. Just takes one strike in the wrong place for a wildfire to happen in the lowlands. Can't afford to have that happen. You think the smoke will affect the chance of thunderstorms tomorrow like it did today? There's a really good chance of that possibly happening. Just answer my next question, okay? Yeah, so the smoke today really put a lid on the high temperatures. So how it works is the smoke sort of acts like a cloud and reflects the sun's rays back out to the atmosphere and into space. Although a small, minuscule fraction of that, it's still enough to knock 1 to 2 degrees easily off the high temperatures for the day. And with that low-level smoke really mixing down into the Puget Sound Basin and dropping the air quality today, you know, that also helps in absorbing and or reflecting the sun's rays back out to space, which basically equates to a lower chance of storms at that time for that area. Of course, the rules are a little bit different if you're in an elevated in an elevated storm setup, like the one we had last week as well as the one we're going into right now, where we won't have much surface-based heating. Surface-based heating as the primary lifting mechanism. You know, once again, it's mostly going to be orographic lift, which is terrain lift. And we'll really just be relying on that shortwave overhead. Shortwave, also called vorticity maximum. It's really cool word to say, honestly. But anyways, when you have kinks in the upper level flow, you have the upper level trough, and then you have some kinks in the flow that allow for what's called defluence aloft. And these are diverging winds up in the upper troposphere. And this creates a void in pressure up there in which it has to pull air from the ground and creates that rising motion needed to initiate thunderstorm. And that's usually what helps to create those surface lows out in the plains during severe weather events. You know, you have a massive amount of defluence aloft that creates a surface low as a result. And that's where you get your fronts developing and your dry lines and so on. You know, the Midwest is a completely different animal compared to out here. Let me refresh Pivotal, see if I can pull up a sounding. So to answer your question in the chat about the smoke blocking out the sun, yes, so it will certainly have an effect. As if we can get any surface-based heating going, it will certainly cap that off. Hang on, having an issue here with Pivotal. Bear with me. Really hope we don't have a service outage going on. No, I think Pivotal might be down. That's kind of disappointing. So the European has been hinting at this solution for the last few days now. It likes to keep most of this. I don't know what just happened. I just set my echo off on accident. But the European's been showing this solution for a few days now. It wants to keep the brunt of storm activity south of Olympia. And see, it still has those locally heavy precipitation rates coming through between, say, 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. or so. And it's hinting at some of these heavier showers right over Olympia as we go into Sunday morning. And really outside of that, maybe an isolated strong shower, maybe a storm chance throughout the week, but yeah, there's not too much confidence in the timing of this event right now, just because all the models are still scrambling less than 1 day out. So this is European lightning flash density. This is the instantaneous one. So this is hourly up until hour number 90. And then after that, it's every 3 hours. So this, it doesn't look like the European verified again, because it would have had this crazy robust lightning activity in the Cascades earlier this afternoon. But I think the Euro was a bust on that. And then let me go back to the radar real quick, see what the radar is showing. Maybe some stronger shower activity off the coast, but outside of that, nothing going on in western Washington. Looks like maybe some of these storms over the eastern slopes of the Oregon Cascades are starting to lose a little steam. It's still producing lightning, but not nearly as much activity as about an hour ago or so. But if what the European is saying does come true, it does have a thunderstorm popping up over this area sometime in the next 30 minutes, but I do not believe that's going to verify. What this is saying is a max of almost 270 lightning flashes. Hang on, I'm trying to read this unit real quick. So I'm going to guess it's saying... No. Okay, flash 100, inverse kilometers, inverse day. Okay. So, yeah, bear with me, guys. This is very difficult to read these units up here. But if I had to guess, I'm going to say this is about 270 flashes per day per square kilometer. Or it could be 270 flashes per 100 kilometers per day. Maybe. But anyways, it's still showing that there's a thunderstorm here near Olympia at 8 p.m. I don't think that's going to work out. Then some more activity up here going into Clallam County, rolling off the Olympics at 10 p.m. We'll have to see, because the best case scenario for that is one of these showers here lights off over the Olympics, rolls off into this area, and then just goes off lightning-wise. I don't believe that's going to verify. I think the Europeans kind of tripping out on that a little bit. So this same European model also has a lot of the lightning activity starting to flare up over the Cascades and parts of Mount Rainier by noon tomorrow. And then it has some more activity coming out of the south. See, it predicts really robust lightning activity here in the southwest interior, most of central and eastern Lewis counties, at around 6 p.m. tomorrow if this model were to verify. And then it brings it a little bit farther west off the coast by 8 p.m. And by 9 p.m., maybe a little scattered cell activity here in the Central Cascades and Northern Central Olympics. And then we quickly wind down after that. And then suggests quite a bit going on down here Sunday morning at 6 a.m. We will have to keep a close eye on this, because the solutions are still bouncing around by the day. Like by every 6-hour run, it's completely different. Like, for example, it has absolutely ridiculous numbers for lightning flashes down here as of yesterday's 18Z. But if we go to today's 18Z, see, it's much more isolated now, a little bit more robust near Mount St. Helens, but still much more isolated and less frequent. You're still kind of having some conflicting solutions here, which is, it's not out of the ordinary, but it's kind of discouraging to see this model disagreement less than a day out from the main event. Now, if we go to the HER 3KM's same lightning flash density, this is much easier to read. So this is per 5 minutes per square kilometer. And so we need to go back to the 0Z to cover the main entirety of the event. For example, the blue contour here, the little light blue contour here, indicates anywhere between 0.1 to 0.5 lightning flashes per 5 minutes per square kilometer. So this is saying is if you multiply this by 12 to get an hour, then this would be roughly the equivalent of 1.44 lightning flashes per hour per square kilometer within the contour. Which is still not impressive in retrospect. But you see the HERS showing something similar to the European, except a little farther east. Now it wants to bring some of this lightning activity into the Silverdale area, extending all the way up through Jefferson County into parts of Clallam County, perhaps even as far west as Sequim. This is tonight at 10 p.m. It's been hinting at some of this shower and maybe isolated storm activity moving to the northwest. And yeah, the HER no longer shows the early nocturnal thunderstorm threat tomorrow morning. So it's also keeping it out towards the afternoon time. And so it likes the solution of having some of the storm activity between, let's say, Linwood and the Skagit County line at around 1 p.m. tomorrow. But plus or minus 2 hours, respectively, just for deviations. I'm just worried about the wind that might accompany the T-storms. Yeah, so there's always a risk of outflow winds, although it's not looking like there's going to be damaging outflow winds. Usually we get winds between the 30 to 40 mile per hour range. Those are gusts. So usually gusts between the 30 to 40 mile per hour range with our thunderstorms. If we had any wind shear going on in the upper atmosphere, then I'd be a little more concerned. But the last few times where we've had elevated storm setups, we haven't had much wind shear, which usually helps to intensify a storm's updraft, which is its fuel. It gives it more tilt so that the updraft and the downdraft don't clash and cancel each other out. Because that's usually what you get with the little single or multi-cell storms around here, even during the summer. In exception of a few times like, I believe, August 17th, 2024, which was a really crazy event around here. We had some severe storms on the west side of the Cascades, including one that moved into the North Bend area, I believe. But we had some sufficient wind shear coming off the mountains, and you know, that's a characteristic of the stronger supercell thunderstorms. Like, those are usually the ones that you see out in the Great Plains, typically, because you have massive amounts of wind shear. You know, you don't have the Rockies or the Appalachians cutting off your low-level flow, and you have the Gulf of Mexico right there. You have your air mass coming out of Canada, meeting the air mass coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, and they mix, and you just get those incredibly robust thunderstorms out there that are tornado producers. I mean, because of the Olympics, the Cascades, and multiple bodies of water here that keep a moderating effect on our weather, you usually don't get those crazy thunderstorm events here too often. They're extremely rare. You know, August 17th, 2024 and September 7th, 2019 are great examples of sometimes you can get those right ingredients, as well as May 4th, 2017. You guys remember there was a microburst that hit the Lacey area on May 4th, 2017. We had in like almost a near perfect storm setup for severe storms here on the west side. So according to what the HER3 is showing here, it has the best window for thunderstorms here in the South Sound tomorrow between about 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. or so, plus or minus 2 hours. So really could be anywhere between 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. And it's showing maybe some extremely isolated lightning activity, more so here in the foothills and Cascades near Mount Rainier. Sometimes Sunday afternoon, but it's extremely low confidence at the moment. Okay, Nolan Thompson, welcome to the chat. I do remember last year's thunderstorm that was crazy here in the lower mainland, constant lightning. Yeah, so sort of the same setup that we were expecting to have with the storm system that we had on March 26th this year. Although March 26th, as you all know, severely underperformed. It was really just because of that mid-level capping inversion that didn't show up in the models. And so it kept a really low top on a lot of the storms, so the updrafts couldn't hit full maturity before moving up into this area. And we noticed that all the way down in Oregon, but we thought maybe that the storms would begin to move into a much more unstable environment up here, but that never ended up happening. It was mainly because we were trying to get the surface-based heating going, but we had too strong of a marine layer that morning, and the clouds really didn't break until the early afternoon time, and we had some sort of premature thunderstorms move through that blocked out the sun, and that just really killed it big time. You know, I wish you guys could have seen my face when I saw, like, this event is going to severely underperform. You know, as soon as I noticed, like, hey, it was going to be a bust, I was like, wow, this is, like, shameful on my part, because I thought I had this forecast in the bag, but it ended up just falling flat on its face. And actually, that happened to about 90 to 95% of other forecasters too. You know, this was one of the most hyped events, possibly one of the most hyped weather events in recent history in the Pacific Northwest, and it just went alakazam. Because of one little kink in the upper level temperature. So what happened was there was called a capping inversion at around between the 500 and 400 millibar layer, which is anywhere between about 18 to 22,000 feet above ground level or so. There was a little capping inversion where the temperature increased with height briefly and prevented any updrafts from growing any higher than that point. So we had extremely high base and low top storms, which is not a good combo for anything severe. So many lessons were learned that day for sure. And I've begun to take a lot more caution with my forecasts ever since March 26th of this year. Lightning show over the Strait of Georgia last Sunday was awesome. Yes, so I'd say that the event definitely performed up to par north of Bellingham. More so north of Whidbey Island, really. So there were a couple lightning strikes over the southern end of Whidbey Island. And then a few more as the cells began to cross into Skagit County near LaConner and Conway. A few more lightning strikes there, and then the activity kind of ceased for a little bit. But then it sort of recycled, and we got some more lightning strikes over San Juan Island. Mainly, I believe it was Orcas Island got the brunt of that lightning activity. But then it just really spread out all across the Strait of Georgia and the Salish Sea, and areas from Victoria, BC, all the way up to inland BC, like places like Abbotsford, for example. Got a really good lightning show that afternoon and night, which some models did pick up on. But overall, for areas south of there, it was definitely another model bust. Another cam model bust. Do you think thunderstorms will hold up that late with the sun going down? So due to the elevated nature of these storms, you don't really need to rely on any surface heating as your primary source of lift. In order to get thunderstorms, you need three main ingredients. Those are lift, moisture, and instability. I don't know why it froze up there. I've had a busy day, so I'm still kind of winding down. You know, I've got what I would call squirrel brains right now. Just please forgive me if I go off on a tangent on occasions. Just, you know, trying to get it back together. Doing the stream more on a spontaneous level. You know, I wanted to maybe start it as early as 5, but then I got a little bit carried away with what I was doing outside. You know, I was bringing out the dethatcher in the front yard at my mom's house, so got kind of crazy with that. Lots of raking. You know, I'm a little sore, so just trying to get back in the weather mode now. So anyways, to answer your question, is it B or Bia? Please forgive me if I mispronounced that. But yeah, the first commenter was asking, you know, how the storms will survive after the sun goes down. So really, with storms of this nature, we typically get the lift that we need from the mountains, and then usually, depending on conditions aloft over the Puget Sound, the storms will usually try to hang on unless the orographic lift or the terrain lift was the primary source of upscale ascent for the storms. If that's the case, it'll cut off and the storms will die out pretty quick. That's usually the level of disappointment that we get around the Sound, is the storms roll off the Cascades and they just sort of fall flat on their faces. This is why the position of the shortwave trough matters the most during a setup like this. Because we have the moisture, we have the instability. It's just a matter of, can we get the lift? You know, can we get that defluence aloft and that southeasterly flow off the mountains? So from southeast to northwest, which is the most favorable wind position in the upper atmosphere for our storm events. You know, I can recall several of these. For example, August 10th, 2013, that night was pretty crazy. I remember looking to the southeast and seeing prolific lightning almost the entirety of the night. So August 10th, September 5th of the same year, September 5th, 2013, featured a pretty good lightning show. Of course, we can't forget September 7th, 2019, and August 17th of last year as well was a really prolific lightning producer. Had some really cool cloud formations that came in. And even somewhat of an honorable mention, the March 26th, even though it was, for the most part, a bust. You know, no one saw 2+ inch hail or any tornadoes. I mean, it was one of the biggest forecast blunders I can recall in recent memory, if my entire lifetime. Okay, Jaw says, hi, just got on. Daughter flying in from Atlanta tomorrow at 2. SeaTac going to be calm. So I'm guessing you mean 2 p.m., right? Looks like right now, looks like you should be safe. Let me go to simulated reflectivity. So if what the short-term models are saying is correct, it'll keep any activity at first well north of Seattle. It's around later that afternoon tomorrow where you might want to be concerned. So I think your flight should be safe. I don't see any reason for delays unless the models completely bust and they go back to the previous solutions where it was showing early and late morning thunderstorms just coming pow, pow, pow through this area. But since the models have backed off on that solution, I don't believe it's going to happen. Like a B. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Just making sure I'm not messing up any names here. So let's go check in on the NAM 3KM. Looks like it's fully rendered. So now we can see what goes on after hour 30. Because see, this is where it cut off at first at hour 31. And so these are all new to me. This is my first time seeing this model along with you guys. So he shows really scattered activity. If this were to verify, this is 1 a.m. Sunday. So now it's pushing all of that nocturnal activity back into Sunday rather than tomorrow morning. It looks like it has one main round that comes through, and then you can see the upper level spin counterclockwise as that shortwave comes through and moves north. Seems like rather quickly. Because see, the flows out of the southeast, and then as the shortwave moves north, the flow comes out of the west. So it just looks like the spin just moves through extremely fast. Because this is around the time where you can notice the shift in the upper level wind patterns here. And by the time we go to hour 60, which is Monday morning, the flow's out of the southwest rather than the southeast. So once again, this is the animation of the NAM 3KM, the fully rendered 0Z. So the 5 p.m. run from this afternoon. Now that I look at it a little closer, the NAM 3KM doesn't really want to bring any activity west of the Cascades during the day Saturday. It has some embedded activity going on over here in the Olympics later in the afternoon, but it just, compared to what the 18Z was showing, the 18Z at the same time had much more scattered activity around this area. But the 0Z, you saw the difference there. It just completely cut it off for the most part. So now the NAM 3KM is favoring the activity to stay mainly south of Snohomish County, but still giving us quite a show here in the South Sound and Southwest Interior if this were to verify. But I'm starting to kind of take this with a grain of salt right now because there's so many different solutions going on at the same time. This would have a lot of that lightning flash activity south of Seattle, mainly south of Seattle, after midnight Sunday. So it sounds like if this were to verify, it may be a really long night tomorrow night going into Sunday. And it shows evidence of some light shower activity coming up through Olympia to Tacoma. Then our shortwave starts to move out after that. So really, really fascinating solution coming up here. Let's go back to the HER 3KM. So the 1Z goes out to 18 hours. This is fully rendered. But this only goes out to noon tomorrow. And yeah, the new 1Z basically has a nothing burger for us until later on in the afternoon, which is a complete flip of the script from what the models were showing yesterday morning. Definitely makes it frustrating because now I have to completely flop the forecast from my blog and say, hey, models are no longer showing this activity happening in the morning. Now it's later on in the afternoon going into Sunday. And then let's see if that even happens at all. You know, it could very well be another nothing burger. It very well could. So yeah, no lightning flashes at all in Western Washington between midnight and noon tomorrow, if what this model is saying is true. All right, going to check in on the Facebook page. Looks like we're at 22,198 followers on Facebook. Make that 22,199 now. So we're about to hit 22.2K on the night. Go check out some comments. Okay, we got a spammer. Going to start deleting some spam comments. All right, those are all gone. Zero tolerance for spam. Okay, chat, do we have any new questions, comments, or concerns that you want to bring up to my attention? Trying to answer questions to the best of my ability. Let me see if Pivotal's back online yet. There we go. NAM3 cam. I want to check out some soundings as this area of showers comes in tomorrow afternoon. Is this tomorrow afternoon? No, this is 2 a.m. Sunday. Let's see, it has that upper level capping inversion here where the EL line is. That would not be good for storm activity if that were to verify. Meanwhile, even an hour before, it has this really decent instability curve right here, which is the area between the white dashed line and the solid red line. So from where these two cross to where this white dashed line starts, this is the measure of CAPE, which is basically instability. You notice how the surface values, the SFC, are 0 for basically everything. And even the ML, the mixed layer, is 0. But the most unstable, which is the elevated nature of this, is 757 joules per kilogram. Not seeing super favorable lapse rates for this, which is the rate at which the temperature decreases with height. You usually want these to be between 7 to 8, if not higher than that, degrees Celsius per kilometer. Because that'll greatly increase the area between this red line and the white dash line here. So for at least a few hours, it looks like a decent elevated setup, but nothing surface-based. You know, this is going to be anything but a surface-based event. Which means the instability curve would start from the surface down here. And we just have too strong of a cap near the surface. Even at 9 p.m. Saturday, we have really favorable conditions here. You know, we have some crazy mid-level lapse rates here, like 8.2 degrees Celsius per kilometer from 3 to 6 kilometers. So from here to here, it's saying the lapse rate there is extremely steep at over 8 degrees Celsius per kilometer. Same goes for the 700 to 500 millibar layer right here. So this is the pressure in millibars. This is logarithmic. So pressure decreases logarithmically as you go up in height. This is why it's called a skew T log P chart. So the temperatures are skewed 45 degrees approximately, and the pressure here is on a logarithmic scale, increasing as you go up, so decreasing. I don't know if that made sense. My apologies, but the distance between the pressure contours here increases as the pressure decreases with height. If that made sense at all. Fort Worth Fine just joined, so unfortunately I think you have the wrong part of the country, my friend. This is for the Puget Sound, so Seattle area, Washington State. I know that there was some activity going on at Fort Worth earlier. Looks like there might still be. Oh yeah. it's a little bit out of my realm here, but yes, lots of activity going on near Fort Worth. I know it's not, you know, a really intuitive stream for the country. Like, if there's something really crazy going on around the country, maybe I'll cover it, perhaps. Like, if there's a tsunami threat, for example, I'll definitely jump into coverage on that. But if it's a storm threat around the country, might want to tune in to another channel like Ryan Hall or Max Velocity. They'll probably cover this in better detail. But yeah, Fort Worth is fine right now. But our area of concern is up here. So just making sure you don't have the wrong channel. This came up as a suggestion for me and my typical weather guys on vacation. Yeah, I'm very sorry I have to disappoint you, but hey, I mean, if you're ever interested in any Puget Sound Weather Chronicles in the future, feel free to tune back in. You know, I'm gladly taking applications for fans. So, brand new lightning activity around these cells here in eastern Oregon. These will eventually be crossing the Columbia River tonight. Just a matter of, will they have enough lift to sustain the journey once the sunlight cuts off. So trying to explain this with the dry mouth, and it's not working so well, so I'm going to take a water break real quick. Appreciate it. Of course, I love weather channels in general. Thank you again. Yes, thank you so much for tuning in. I already know that the weather channels would be much more interesting down south, because the fact that we get excited over an extremely isolated thunderstorm threat up here is kind of sad compared to what a lot of Midwesterners think. But, you know, this is exciting stuff for us, because we don't get chances like this too often to see lightning around here. I just wish it was wetter lightning, where we actually got the... Yeah, I got a crooked screen here. Just noticed it. Hey, there we go. So, I just wish we didn't have the dry lightning variant of what's going on. But since the monsoonal moisture that's coming in from the southwest is so thin in nature, you can see this clearly on the soundings as well. So, let me pull up the SeaTac airport real quick on this sounding. So, yeah, this extremely shallow moist layer right here, this is where the monsoonal moisture is. So the greater the distance between the solid green and the solid red lines, then the drier the air is at these points in the atmosphere. So right now the air is not as moist as it was before, but it still is pretty moist down here near the surface. A little bit more moist as you get about 1,000 meters or so off the ground. This is between 500 meters to 1,000 meters above ground level. But this huge dry area here, this is the reason why a lot of the showers aren't reaching the ground around here right now, even though there's moisture in the air. It's because any rain that makes it from this moist layer here down to this moist layer almost all evaporates while it moves into this area of dry air right here. So what you'd really want to see is the green and red line this close, if not closer, all the way down to the surface. So you'd have a really narrow channel of moisture all the way down to the surface. Now I want to go ahead in time, because some of these soundings earlier in the day were showing some marginal severe risks for our area. Let's see if it still says that with the new models. But so you can really see this shallow monsoonal moisture layer now, like where the green lines and the red lines are as close as you can get to touching right there. So this is the location of the atmosphere where the monsoonal moisture is, above the 700 millibar layer, so around 10,000 feet. So really anywhere between about 10,000 to 15,000 feet is where our monsoonal moisture is located in the atmosphere. And then this is the near surface moist layer, where once again those lines are almost touching, but then you have this huge dry slot once more down here. See, really dry pocket of air at about 5,000 feet. If this were to verify, this 3 a.m. Sunday. Go back to the very beginning. So, really, overall, we're not going to see any surface-based action going on here because they're just too huge of what's called a warm nose right here. So where the red line is to the right of the white dashed line, that's where the air cannot rise. That's also a reason why the smoke is so dense today, because this is keeping the air from rising and mixing back into the upper levels of the atmosphere. If there were some way miraculously for us to fully erode this cap during peak daytime heating, then yeah, we would absolutely have more robust storms, perhaps even severe storms down here. But that's just not going to happen. Not with this setup, it's not going to happen. See, because the temperature is still increasing with height here, and then it decreases. But the instability profile is way up here, like over 10,000 feet at this point in time. So if what this is saying is true, then we would have extremely high based activity where the LCL line is here. This is where the clouds will condense. This is over 3 kilometers above the ground. And for those of you just tuning in, we're just checking out some model sounding data right now. This is for the SeaTac airport, just trying to see if we get any more of that marginal severe hazard type down here. So this is courtesy of the NAM 3KM high-res model. Looking at the new 0Z run. So how do you read the time on this? So when it says 11Z, this is Zulu time. So the equivalent to Universal Coordinated Time or Greenwich Mean Time. This says Saturday at 11Z, so this is 4 a.m. tomorrow. Because you subtract 7 for Pacific Daylight Time. You subtract 8 if it's Pacific Standard Time, but since we're on Daylight Time still, you only have to subtract 7 hours from that. What was Sunday's base height at? So let's go farther in. So now we're in late Sunday afternoon. Hang on, let's go back. But we're still looking at a lot of high base stuff going on here. Let's go into Sunday morning. The 5 a.m. Sunday, it has the base height at just below 1 kilometer here. And these are for the most unstable parcels, so this MU here is what's showing these markings. And this is the favorable parcel you want to look at for elevated storms, like what we're getting now. If it was more of a surface-based environment, you'd want to look at the SFC. But there's nothing going on with the surface. Only 2 joules per kilogram of energy with negative 929 joules per kilogram of inhibition. Which is just the area between where the red solid line is to the right of the white dash line. So this is all inhibition. This is the cape, so this is the energy, and this is all inhibition down here. So the area between where the EL line is and the LFC line is, that is instability. You want a greater distance between these two. So you usually want the EL line to be about 12 kilometers, as high up as you can get to the tropopause as possible. And you usually want the LFC as far down, close to the LCL line as possible. So these are for most unstable. But at this time in the day, this is 5 a.m. Sunday. So sure, you have a favorable base height at around 980 meters. I totally forgot what I was going to say right there. But anyways, to answer your question, Sunday's base height starts out at right around the kilometer, just below it. As we go farther in time, you see the height almost triples. We're starting to get some of those favorable lapse rates in the mid-levels. See a little over 7 degrees Celsius per kilometer in the mid-levels. But just still, no surface-based activity. Let's see just how unstable can we get on Sunday. Remember, you want the purple line to be way up here. You want the yellow line to be as far down as possible. This is 18Z, so this is the 11 a.m. 19Z is noon. See, absolutely nothing going on with that surface environment. But we're starting to get somewhat favorable for elevated. So this is 330 joules per kilogram of most unstable cape. We still have negative 31 joules per kilogram of inhibition for most unstable. Nolan says, thank you. Yes, thank you for your question, Nolan. I do appreciate people asking. I'm more than happy to answer them to the best of my ability. Still looking at a chance of high base activity. So where this LCL line is above 1 kilometer respectively. As we go through the day, Sunday. So it still looks like the most favorable day for storm activity will be tomorrow for the Puget Sound area. Because now as we're going into the evening time Sunday, this appears we get a little more stable as the sun starts to set. All right, 368 subs. Awesome sauce. Let me turn on my desk fan. Starting to get a little toasty in here. So now I want to switch over to the HER 3KM. See what the 0Z HER has to say for this too. And it looks like the best time is going to be around 4Z Sunday, which is 9 p.m. Saturday for storms around here. And I'm going to pick a point around Tacoma. Yeah, we definitely have a favorable elevated environment for storms if they can survive the trip off the mountains. This little K down here, this is the K thunderstorm index. It's more of a composite, but it doesn't have any units. But usually the higher the K index is, then the more favorable the environment is for storms. And really anything over 30 is great. So 38 would be considerable. Even shows here at this time that the most unstable Cape parcel is 479 joules per kilogram with negative 42 joules of inhibition. And see, this shows a lifted condensation level height or cloud base height of almost 2,500 meters above ground level. So that's little over 8,000 feet, probably around 8,000 feet. Let's go back in time a little bit. Going to pull up Ton Field here, so South Hill area. Let's see, this is 5 p.m. Saturday, frame 24. Looks like we have a little bit less of a capping inversion here, but it's still keeping quite a lid on any of that surface-based activity that we can get going. So we still have a favorable elevated instability curve. But if we look down here at the Cape parcels, you see we still have negative 237 joules per kilogram of most unstable convective inhibition, which is not really what you want to see with a setup like this. Looks like most of these soundings have backed off on the marginal severe computer algorithms that they spat out. But see, even here we have a fair amount of space between the white dash line and the red solid line. We still have those really high base storms, the almost 3 kilometers above the ground. But this most unstable Cape parcel is much more favorable here. 584 joules per kilogram of Cape to only negative 12 joules per kilogram of inhibition. And lapse rates in the mid-levels well within that 7 to 8 degrees Celsius per kilometer favorable range. It's just we're kind of struggling on those low-level lapse rates a bit. And then, yeah, as we go into nighttime here, the environment really starts to stabilize. Yeah, by midnight, there's virtually no instability by midnight. Anyways, I guess we should go back and look at the radar. It's been a while since I've looked. It's a good thing that I'm looking because new development this may actually work out in the model's favor. But I can't be too sure of that right now. Let me go check what it says on radar scope. Yeah, showing the same thing on radar scope. Yeah, so Seebeck area. If you know anyone that's watching this from the Seebeck area, can you give them a buzz? See if they're hearing anything, any thunder, seeing any lightning yet. I wouldn't be surprised if we even got a small hail report out of this too. Ugh. Okay, for those of you just tuning in, I was rambling about model soundings and skew T-plots, you know, all of that. But now it's time to get back into the focus of what this live stream was about. Tracking showers and storms around Western Washington. We do have this new pop-up shower here around the Seebeck area on the Kitsap Peninsula. This is moving to the northwest. I'm just waiting to see if we get any lightning strikes out of this, because it's starting to show some pretty impressive radar signatures for reflectivity here. I'm gonna make a post. Gonna make a post on my Facebook page real fast. Do we have any new questions, comments, or concerns in the YouTube chat? Feel free to address any of those anytime, and I will answer any questions to the best of my ability. Just making a post on Facebook real quick about the radar image I just got. Facebook is blowing up. So we just got an air quality alert as well from NWS Seattle. So it's in effect until noon tomorrow. Air quality alert for smoke has been issued. So yeah, if you don't have to go outdoors tomorrow, please don't. It's highly unrecommended. This is for King and Snohomish counties, mainly due to the wildcat fire smoke plume making it all the way up here, which is the one that's burning over Chinook Pass right now. And let's see if I can refresh the air quality monitor too. Still have this tab open. Oh yeah, it's terrible around Seattle and East Side right now. Like just absolutely horrendous air quality right now. It's a little bit better. This one's definitely wrong. But a little bit better down here in the South Sound by the water. It's still in the moderate to unhealthy for sensitive groups category. Eastern Washington is ridiculous right now. You do not want to be east of the Cascades right now. Ugh. Okay. See, Western Washington weather. Matthew Fab, thank you for tuning in. Good to see you, my friend. He says, more accurate using 10-minute average in the US EPA conversion. Okay, so US EPA, we're doing 10-minute average. Okay. All right, Matthew, thank you for that tip. I do appreciate that. Yeah, I was just looking at everything standard, so no conversion, and this real-time period. So we're doing a 10-minute average now. It's still just like the story is still baffling for Seattle and east side areas of King County. You know, it's just ridiculously high particulate matter numbers right now. Okay, getting some new questions and comments from my post. You must be using a much higher resolution or more sensitive radar. Okay, Nolan asks, could the smoke hinder any development of thunderstorms? The answer is absolutely yes. However, since we do have a more elevated environment, we don't need that surface heating to really kick off thunderstorms. That's where the benefit of having the mountains nearby really helps us out. Just a matter of, can you get the storms to drift off the mountains and not die out as the primary source of lift is cut off? Which usually we get the opposite end of that, and usually it does happen, where the storms don't make it off the Cascade Crest and they die out or just turn to showers as they move into the Puget Sound. Although it seems like this shortwave trough ahead is in a more favorable position, at least compared to last week. That would give us some favorable defluence aloft, which is splitting winds above the ground. That would create that area of lift over the lowlands. That would help sustain these storms as they come off the mountains. Does Tacoma Frederickson area have a chance? This is from Facebook. And I just hit the enter button again on accident. There we go. Saying extremely humid at Gig Harbor, like it's trying to rain. So, I'd be more worried about smoke hindering storm development if this was surface-based. But due to the elevated nature with the monsoonal moisture, you know, we really don't have to worry much about that. Really, the primary concern is, do we still have a favorable source of lift for these storms as they come off the mountains? But luckily, the flow is out of the southeast, which is favorable for keeping storms at least somewhat mature as they move off the mountains and into the lowlands. So we do have that going on our side. Okay. Okay, thank you guys so much for liking the stream, viewing, and sharing. For anyone just tuning in, if you're a new viewer, my name is Anthony. I'm the host and founder of Puget Sound Stormwatch on YouTube and Facebook. We're going to be expanding our horizons very soon. I'm getting the Patreon page ready to launch, as well as getting the Blue Sky page ready to launch. I do also have personal X and Instagram accounts. They're under my real name, Anthony Croyle. So if you're interested in going to follow my personal accounts, I do post a lot of weather information on X as well. It's at Milton WA Tech 99 on X. At Milton WA Tech 99. My account is verified with a blue check mark, so you'll know if you find me. So really, our main area of concern at the moment, outside of these storms over eastern Oregon, is just this little pop-up cell that's crossing the Hood Canal right now near Brennan. This is affecting Highway 101 between Lilywop and Brennan right now. So, yeah, Lilywop's way down there. So yeah, between Lilywop and Brennan right now, along Highway 101. Possible heavy showers. I wouldn't be surprised if we heard a thunderclap report from this too. Just watching to see if we get any lightning strike return on the radar, because it'll show a flash and a lightning bolt signature if we get any lightning strikes. Just all eyes are peeled on this, because the European has also been showing some lightning strike potential out here near Squim at around 10 p.m. Looks like this cell would be the one to do it. If it does. See, it's shown here. Now, it's really a matter of will this verify or not. Because the storm would have to be right here to be producing lightning if it were to verify on the European. Yeah, I find it really cool how you can see the spin of the upper level trough as the storms rotate counterclockwise through the area. See, it's out of the southeast, and then the wind direction shifts. You really see that counterclockwise rotation over the Seattle area, and you see that shortwave really move out of here. But then I see this here. So it'll be another area to watch as we go on through the week. Just how far north will this spin move? Which right now is projected to move onto the Oregon coast somewhere around Brookings. It's got this trajectory at the moment. You know, look at the environment again one more time before storm time. Yeah, really well mixed boundary layer here. So that'll probably help us mix a lot of that smoke out before storm time tomorrow. Ugh. Still seeing a K index of 38, which is thunderstorm potential. Anything over 30 is really good. Getting a lot of comments coming in on Facebook right now. Yeah, this shows for this time. This is midnight on Sunday, showing a most unstable parcel CAPE of 1,042 joules per kilogram with only -2 joules per kilogram of inhibition. Extremely unstable elevated environment up here. But we're not seeing that marginal severe risk anymore. Now we're going into Sunday morning here. It's marginal for sure. It's marginal. The elevated environment is definitely there, except for this one. Ooh, that's horrifying. Then the instability profile goes away. This is probably around the time that the shortwave starts to exit. This is around 6 p.m. Sunday. Because that instability curve just completely crashed in on itself. Okay, sweet. Let's see, visible satellite. Visible satellite an hour ago is pretty cool. You can see this. I don't remember the exact name of this fire burning near Wenatchee, or excuse me, near Leavenworth, just southwest of Leavenworth, putting out a huge smoke plume. Then you got the Wildcat fire down here putting out a huge smoke plume. Of course, you got the Emigrant fire putting out a smoke plume. And all these little individual smoke plumes going on right now. These are the weak areas of convection moving north. And as the sun goes down, oh yeah, you can really see those anvils spreading out here. Big time from those storms in Oregon. Look at how wide, look at how widely spread this anvil top is right here. It's just spreading out for miles in each direction. Ooh. Cannot spell longer for some reason. Alright, just answering some more questions on Facebook. See, so we have 11 viewers, 12 stream likes now. Thank you all for liking the stream. It's really helping those algorithms take off. Ugh. Yeah, these showers here, moving on to the Olympic Peninsula, are certainly in the favorable environment to intensify for a brief moment. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if we got a brief little thunderclap or even a single lightning strike out of this. So overall, the cell's looking pretty good on radar. Looks like it's trying to do something, but it's having kind of a hard time doing so. Ooh, all right, we've been streaming for over an hour and a half. That's crazy. Okay, let's go see the Her 2Z real quick. Looks like the new 2Z Her is out. It's not showing this cell over Hood Canal right now, but it does show it in the next frame at 9 p.m., albeit much weaker. So we're still seeing some sloppy verification with the cam models here. These are the short-range convective allowing models. So NAM 3cam, HER 3cam, RRFS, HRW, so on. All of these models that I'm using. So here's a difference, and I'm seeing this for the first time too. The difference between the 1Z and the 2Z. It has a lot of this shower activity much farther west now at the same time. This is 11 a.m. See how the 1Z has basically nothing here? While if we go to the 2Z at 11 a.m., it has scattered shower activity. Maybe some heavier showers embedded in it. And then we hit the end of this run here at 1 p.m. and it has isolated thunderstorms in the foothills of King and Snohomish counties. So, brand new development here. It certainly brings that chance of lightning flashes in the Tacoma area at around 11 a.m. tomorrow, plus or minus 2 hours. You usually want to give plus or minus 1 to 2 hours on the models to account for any deviations. It has saved me quite a bit. Okay, so I did get a report of distant thunder. So from Gig Harbor. One boom of thunder, and that was pretty far away sounding. That was it. It's already stopped. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got an intercloud strike. Like any sort of intercloud lightning there. Looks like some re-intensification just west of Highway 101, which is just southwest of Brennan right now, moving towards the northwest. So we do have a single report of thunder being heard from a distance with this cell right now. Alright, sounds like we just broke 22,200 followers on Facebook. Really impressive. For anyone just tuning in, my name's Anthony. I'm the host of Puget Sound Stormwatch on Facebook and YouTube. Currently keeping our eyes on this lone little cell crossing the Hood Canal and is moving perpendicular to Highway 101 right now near Brennan. It's moving to the northwest at about 20 miles per hour. We have one report of distant thunder heard from Gig Harbor on this cell earlier. Outside of that, no activity west of the Cascades yet. All the lightning activity right now is happening east of the Oregon Cascades. And this will be moving towards us as we go into the morning time. So we'll have to keep our eyes peeled on the models as soon as the sun goes up tomorrow morning. Yeah, this will really show you the monsoonal moisture being pulled in over the next 18 hours. So this right here, this is our little shortwave trough. And you can see all the kinks in the flow here. This enables rising motion, which creates lift for thunderstorms under other ideal conditions, such as having moisture and instability. Lift is just one ingredient for at least 3 needed for thunderstorms. For severe storms, you need wind shear as well, but we're not worried about that. We don't have the shear, so we don't have to worry about any crazy severe storms. At least at this time. So if we look at simulated infrared satellite, this brings really high cloud tops through at around 1 p.m. tomorrow, which is around the same time now that we're expecting thunderstorms in this area. So this run of the 2Z Her3 cam has these showers and thunderstorms over eastern Oregon dissipating as the sun goes down. Then they pop right back up here in the southern Washington Cascades and then come back to bite us in the later morning hours, if not the early afternoon hours of tomorrow. We've seen a lot of back and forth solutions on the model so far, so I'm taking this solution with a grain of salt at the moment. But one thing's for sure, it'll be a really difficult forecast to write up tomorrow morning. This is what the NAM 3KM shows for Sunday morning at 1 a.m. If this is right, there's a good chance a lot of people will be woken up by this in the middle of the night. I know for sure this event is going to be another nowcast situation, which means literally watching the radar in real time for hours on end and giving updates like that. All right, do we have any more questions, comments, or concerns? I'm considering wrapping up the stream for tonight. It's probably getting pretty late for a lot of families and people are starting to go to bed. I noticed a huge drop in viewership in the last few minutes. We're hanging on at 368 right now. If not, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the stream for tonight. Just give you guys one more play of the NAM 3KM. This is the 5 p.m. run from tonight. It's showing a lot of the activity bypassing us tomorrow, at least until the late night hours. While the HER 3KM wants to bring the thunderstorm activity in a few hours earlier. But now, none of the models are showing anything for tomorrow morning. You know, they've completely pulled back that solution in the last 24 hours. And some of these are suggesting a second round sometime Sunday. NAM's not really favoring it, but the HER has been. The HER even has some places getting in on the action Sunday afternoon, too. But anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. My voice box is already getting sore. I've been rambling for about 2 hours straight. So for those of you who tuned in today, liked the stream and shared it, thank you all very much. Thank you for your questions, comments, or concerns. If you guys like the coverage tonight, go ahead and share the page to your friends and family. Future Sound Stormwatch on YouTube as well as Facebook. I post daily blogs on Facebook. I feel like tomorrow and Sunday are going to be very busy days. George says, appreciate everything. We'll be waiting for tomorrow morning update for SeaTac. So, yeah, it's looking like right now SeaTac, at least from what I'm seeing on the models so far, looks like SeaTac's in the clear before later Saturday afternoon. So we probably won't have to worry about this stuff until about 5 p.m. or so. So you should be okay before 5 p.m. for any arrivals or departures from SeaTac. Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up for the stream, everyone. Have a great night. We are officially in Stormwatch mode once more. So that means rapid fire updates as I get them. I'll be watching the radar like a hawk over the next 2 days. I do have an event I have to get to Sunday afternoon, so coverage will probably be a little sparse then. But tomorrow is fair game for all of this. So expect me to be very active on Facebook. looking to release a briefing on YouTube, if not another live stream sometime earlier in the day, but we shall see. So this was Anthony from Puget Sound Stormwatch on Facebook and YouTube. We are now signing off for the day. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you.